Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee. I'm an artist, a health and life coach, and this channel is dedicated to women's wellness and personal development. If that sounds like your thing, definitely subscribe. Today, I want to talk about the way that you treat yourself in private. Why? Because the way that you treat yourself in private ends up becoming the way that you treat yourself in public. It ends up being how you are publicly received. And on the surface, this might sound like it's not that important, but I promise you, for your own well-being, it really, really is, and I'm going to explain why. Okay? The relationship that you have with yourself in private always becomes public. If I'm looking down, it's because I have my notes. I don't want to forget anything. People think that they can separate their private life from their public life. And this is one way of thinking, but in my life, the way that I go about it, maybe it's because I have a bit more of a creative lens, but for me, everything is interconnected. That's why I'm super drawn to life coaching, because it brings in all of these different realms of health, like your physical health, your emotional health, your spirituality, etc. They're all combined and holistic. And I take that same approach when it comes to my life as well. So I truly believe that the way that you treat yourself in private ends up affecting your public life. Energy leaks, that's the reason why. And your nervous system leaks. Your self-concept, the way that you internally feel about yourself leaks. The way that you treat yourself leaks. You can perform confidence temporarily, but eventually people feel how you actually relate to yourself. And this happens quick, okay? This happens subconsciously. That's the thing. People read your energy subconsciously. If you want to approach it from a spiritual perspective, we're all spirits, right? So people pick up on your spirit. That's why people's energy, people's spirits can affect the way that they physically look, because their spirit is what is animating them. So if they're not the most well-intentioned person, you can see that this affects their looks over time. If someone is bright and just naturally more upbeat, that also affects the way that they look. It affects the way that we receive them. So on the surface, you might think it all comes down to their appearance. Oh, they have cool hairstyle, they have their skincare routine, whatever, they're fit. On the surface, that might be what it looks like, but really it extends beyond that. It extends to spirituality, it extends to the way that they view themselves, all of these little things that affect the way that people read you subconsciously. Humans are deeply interconnected. Whether this is something that you want to admit or not, whether you like it or not, our nervous systems are constantly reading each other and picking up on each other. That is just the design. It's nothing to be wary of. That is just how it is. It's the truth. And this isn't even only spiritual in that sense, it's psychological and biological too. People feel more than they consciously register. Human beings are constantly communicating beyond words. You've probably heard of nonverbal cues, body language, think of those kinds of things. People can feel self-trust. They can feel desperation. They can feel shame. They can feel groundedness. All of that is things that people can pick up on. And this is why when you're around certain people, maybe you feel calm. Or if you are around someone, maybe you feel like your heart starts beating faster. You can pick up sometimes on people's anxiety, because when you're around them, you just naturally start to feel anxious too. And you might be wondering, where did this even come from? You're picking up the frequency of somebody else. You're picking up maybe when somebody feels anxious, even when they're smiling, even if they're coming off upbeat. Or you're picking up maybe when somebody is disingenuous, even if their words are saying something different, right? We read that. We read people's aura, people's energy. And this is why confidence can oftentimes change interactions. The way that you carry yourself can definitely change interactions. Your internal world, which is what my channel is all about, that inner work, that personal development, your internal world changes the way that people experience you, and that changes your life in effect. This can even tie into work. It can tie into business if you have a business. If you're interested in having a business in the future, this definitely applies to you, because Business is all about relationships. That's the part that I don't hear that often in the entrepreneurship social media space, is that business is largely tied to your relationships, and relationships are emotional. They're tied to the way that people perceive you, experience you, their level of trust with you. People invest in not only your service that you're providing or your product, but your energy, your sense of safety, your self-trust, the way that they feel they can relate to you, can they trust you. That all of these little things are affecting your business, whether you are aware of it or not. Even in business, people respond to how you carry yourself before they respond to what it is that you're selling, okay? Because they can sniff it out. And you, you have to experience it to really understand that this is true, but I'm speaking from lived experience, okay? This is why the way you treat yourself privately matters so much, because private habits eventually become public energy, and it becomes your public identity, your private habits. So confidence, I feel like when you're first starting out on your self-growth or personal development, you'll hear about how to be confident, right? On this channel, where we are right now, we are elevating beyond that kind of advice. And we're going to take it a step further, because let's say you understand the concept of how to develop confidence, right? Confidence is often just evidence. It comes from how you've been treating yourself consistently. That's true confidence. If you guys are into music, I forgot the name of the song, but it's by Lil Wayne. He says, confidence is a stain you can't wipe off. True. Nothing but facts, okay? Confidence isn't random. It's built through accumulated self-trust. Your habits teach your nervous system who you are. So, you can stretch the truth with other people. You can lie, you can exaggerate as much as you want. You can have, sometimes we're human beings. It happens. I'm not judging, but we can have sometimes a false sense of grandiosity. But the reality of how you really feel about yourself will always tell the truth if it doesn't align with what you're portraying, okay? Especially people who are learning about concepts like this can definitely pick up on that. But your self-talk is a major influence. The way you speak to yourself alone becomes the tone of your presence. It becomes the thing that introduces you before you even speak. And how can this show up? If you're having negative self-talk, it can show up as apologizing too much. Ladies, we're all guilty of this. Hesitation, people can pick up on your hesitation. Fear of being seen, that's a huge one. Visibility. And shrinking yourself. If you're having negative self-talk, that's how it can leak into your real life. It can leak into your standards. What you tolerate privately becomes your standards publicly. How this can show up? Accepting chaos as the norm. Whether or not chaos is your norm, whether you've normalized chaos in your life, whose responsibility is that ultimately? It's yours, okay? Neglecting yourself, staying in environments that drain you, overextending yourself. These are all symptoms of a larger theme of what your standards are. And your standards begin in private before they extend publicly. Shame. Shame is another one of those things that can leak into your public identity. How? Because shame literally changes your body. Think about your posture. Your posture is a huge indicator before you speak of how you feel about yourself, and oftentimes of the level of shame that you are carrying within yourself. If you, and this is one of those like topics that really deserves more attention, because it can change your posture. If you feel shame, like if you don't feel beyond confidence, like if you just don't like the person that you are, or you feel like you have to hide, how do you walk around? Shoulders looking down, eye contact. You avoid eye contact with people. You experience social tension because you're constantly overthinking or over being critical of yourself. You're in your head. People pick up on that. That's a symptom of shame. Over explaining, hiding. Okay, people don't just hear shame, they feel it. Self-abandonment is another way that this can leak into your public life. If you constantly abandon yourself privately, you'll abandon yourself in public too. How can this show up? In business interactions. How? By undercharging, maybe by not holding your standard that you've created for yourself, by weak boundaries, by overgiving, by needing approval. Okay, these are all symptoms of how self-abandonment can leak into your public life if you are experiencing it privately. Self-compassion. If every mistake becomes self-attack internally, socializing can start to feel dangerous. So moving from a state of self-criticism, attacking yourself inside of your own mind, right? Like that internal voice, moving from that to gradually having a sense of self-compassion is huge. I don't have enough time in this video to give you all of the stories of how this has played out in my life, but listen, this lack of self-compassion can show up in social anxiety, in overthinking, in replaying conversations, in hypervigilance. A lot of social anxiety is just self-surveillance, okay? It's a symptom of being way too hard on yourself and, basically punishing yourself before other people get the opportunity to punish you or criticize you, you know what I mean, or reject you, perceived rejection. What you are doing in that moment is trying to manage perception. You're trying to read people's minds. You're trying to monitor yourself constantly, and there's an inability to be present, and that is draining. Okay, you can't feel connected to people while you're internally monitoring yourself the entire time. And that's basically what social anxiety is. And the good news is that that is something you can work on in private before and change how you show up publicly. Okay, so a lot of the time when we think about how we treat ourselves in private matters how we show up publicly, we think of these things: grooming, how you present yourself, your environment, your clothing, your routines, but it translates into other small things like your mornings, your discipline. And it's not about perfection, it's not about vanity, it really is about self-respect. And care communicates something, okay? The way you care for yourself affects how you carry yourself. Sometimes putting yourself together in the morning or whatever is that you get ready for the day isn't superficial. It's setting an energetic boundary. It's an energetic preparation for your day. You're communicating what your expectations are without saying a word, okay? It's a nonverbal communication. And keeping promises to yourself eventually changes your nervous system. So this is when we get into the way that it affects your everyday life, okay? Honestly, this is something that has become very real for me in the realm of socializing and my social life, because I experienced a major life event that changed everything for me socially. My relationships changed, my sense of identity changed, and it basically changed my views, right? And I realized that emotionally I was living in the past, because what would happen is that after the fact, I would try to basically recreate this environment and go back to what I used to know, right? Trying to recreate old memories, trying to recreate old dynamics is basically a form of resisting reality. And I kept wanting things to feel the way that it used to. But healing didn't start happening when I tried to go backward and recreate my past. It started happening when I actually accepted my life where it is now and embraced it and worked from there. That's growth. That's why growth can feel so uncomfortable, okay? Rebuilding slowly, using small positive interactions as my new basis for my views instead of constantly referring to the past. They can show up in small things like daily exchanges, a sense of not hiding anymore, okay? Observing a sense of safety again. I started using everyday interactions as evidence that connection can still be good. This is how inner work plays out in real life, in your daily life. I started to rebuild my nervous system slowly. I started to rebuild that sense of safety slowly. And I started letting new experiences replace constant replaying of older experiences. Okay. I will make a video on this going more into depth, but Social confidence wasn't, this is just a perfect example of what I'm talking about in this video about how your private work matters, because social confidence was not rebuilt for me in one moment. It was rebuilt through repeated experiences of safety and positive reinforcement on a daily basis, and choosing to be consciously aware of the positive things that I'm experiencing rather than looking back and using those past experiences to replay a negative feeling, you know? So let's tie this video up. Let's bring it back full circle. The relationship that you have with yourself in private always, always, always without fail becomes public. Not because people are judging every flaw. I want to take this conversation away from having it be in other people's hands, other people's perception, because ultimately it is impacting you the most. It is impacting your life experience the most. And not because people are judging every single aspect about you, but because human beings feel each other, okay? Even on social media. And the goal isn't perfection, it's creating a private relationship with yourself that feels safe enough, loving enough, and respectful enough that it naturally changes the way that you move throughout the world. All right? I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a like if this topic spoke to you, or a comment on future videos you would like to see within the health, wellness, and personal development space. I truly hope that you took something away from today's video, because this has been something that I've been working through in real time. If you are interested in working with me privately as a health and life coach, my offers are always down below in my description box, and I have a blog where I fleshed out these topics in way more detail. I upload diaries, insights, and other things on there, so go and check that out and subscribe. The link will be below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.